Welcome to a new episode of the Proportion Community Live Sessions. This time we have an interesting conversation with Steve Osumba. Steve, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Can you introduce yourself? Where are you based? What's your background? What's your experience in HCD?
Thank you. My name is Steve Osumba. Currently a design innovation lead at PATH, a program known as Living Labs, where we use human-centered design to solve health problems. So there are a lot of health issues we've tackled, particularly in maternal side, but also have engaged also in other projects like WASH and medical devices. My background is totally not linked to what I'm doing. I have a mechanical engineering background. And I got into human-centered design back in University of Nairobi when I was working as a project engineer at Science and Technology Park. Yeah, that was my first brush with HCD, and I never looked back. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. And being a technical engineer myself, I also recognize a lot of engineers who love to jump into creating high fidelity stuff, right? So if you are into technology, you love technology and you want to make something beautiful. But you've got a totally different story. So you make kind of a pivot from maybe that's kind of drive to work towards something that is already polished and finished towards maybe taking the right steps in research and making a very lean approach in prototyping. So maybe both of these topics could be shortly discussed today. What would be your statements for that first part, that research part? Do you have like a provoking statement?
Yeah, like I said, the quality of your data depends on the type of users you have. For qualitative research, the users you engage really matters. So you must take your time to identify the right stakeholders who are diverse enough to really pull out the right data. Otherwise, if you stick to just maybe a specific group of people, might not represent the entire the 3D view of that particular problem, particularly when you are solving social problems, because you are solving for people and how they interact. That means you need more data, rich data, and that means you have to go wide and diverse. So that is quite important. If you miss that, you will see it later. It always comes back towards you. So take time to identify the users you want to engage. It's very important. That's something you've learned.
Wonderful. Okay, let's make that more concrete. Let's pick an example. Do you have a certain project you have worked on, and maybe you can give a short introduction about what that was and how your statements, the quality of your data is as good as your user selection. How did that apply to that particular case? And did you also make failures in the beginning, or was it directly a success?
Yeah, so one of the projects which it's dear to me, so we were developing a software for managing medical devices, because currently the situation in Kenya is that less than 30% of medical devices are actually in use. And this is causing strain even to that 30% being used. So this is really limiting the utility, even denying the citizens or the users themselves the ability to enjoy the benefits of medical devices. So our work was to minimize the breakdowns so that devices are ever working. So to develop a software which will help in managing these medical devices. So the first bit was to really identify the users who will be using this particular medical device. And Mercury is now for facilities, it's for hospitals. So it was quite important to know first we have to consider regions, because Kenya is huge with several regions. So regions also affect. So is it in remote, hard to reach area? Is it the urban area, to see how they manage their devices? And then also level of facilities matter. Level 2 and level 5 and 6 are totally different. Meaning, in this case, if we're only going to, we only picked our users from one level of facility, let's say we only pick level 5, the data we are going to get will not be a representation of the entire bit, and that will really be false data. And also, if we went to only level 5, will be different. And then also the same case, if we only went to urban areas with good roads, all that, the situation there in terms of maintenance will be quite different than in a rural and hard to reach area where maybe there's only one biomed doing maintenance in the entire county. So those are the things we have to take into consideration to ensure that we really capture the entire situation of medical device management in the entire country. So we have to be diverse, consider all those factors.
For this particular case, it makes sense to think about geography, about the setting of the facilities, maybe even the level of education of the users of the medical devices. But is there like a framework you work with that you can apply to different projects? A framework that really helps you to think in diversity of users, how to set parameters to make diverse user selection. Do you work with or have developed a certain framework for that?
Yeah, so it all depends first on the project. That's the outline. What would the project want? And then a very good tool which we use is the stakeholder mapping. We use that to map out all the stakeholders. So the project brief will now show you, okay, this is what the project intends to find. So we are solving an issue for the entire country. So the next step is now we do stakeholder mapping. So we map out all. So that tool is really important. It's very important for you to help you find out the best stakeholders to use to interview and all that diversity. And then also we always have a checkbox. So after doing the stakeholder mapping, we have a checkbox of the stakeholders we want to get and those parameters. So that we can always share and get also feedback on that checkbox to see if we are covering the entire stakeholder. So that's how we always go about it. It begins from the brief. The brief will give you ideas, and then we sit down in ideation within ourselves and a few people to map out the entire stakeholders we want to engage and make a checkbox out of that. And then now
it will be great, especially in the live session, if you can show some of these stakeholder maps and how you have practiced that. I think it will be really insightful for the participants of the live session. Maybe one final teaser, the second topic. Let's not dive into the content, because let's save that for the session itself. But you had another kind of quotes or statements for later in the process. What's that? What is the cliffhanger that you have for us?
Yeah, this is on prototyping, which I always say, paper and pencil before computer and pixels. So which basically mean you should start small, low fidelity prototype using available things which won't cost you money and time before you move to now dedicating much of your time polishing the work, maybe doing computer-aided designs or you doing UIs. Yeah, so it's very important to begin from sketching stuff before you spend your time. It's really important. Yeah.
Thank you so much. This is going to be interesting because, well, if you are listening to this video and want to join the live session, then and you are curious how a paper prototype of a managing software of devices, right, medical devices, might look like, in paper form, then definitely sign up for the session and hear it directly from Steve. Steve, thank you so much, and I really look forward to have you in our next session.
Thank you so much, Thomas, and see you on Thursday.